I have been doing this show since 2017, and I am shocked that it has taken me this long to film a German car. And no, a Buick Regal does not count. The 2001 Audi TT Quattro is a fun little German sports coupe that has aged gracefully. So, a little background on myself. I've always had an affinity for Volkswagen Group cars. I had a Mark III Jetta in high school that was absolutely trashed. My mom both currently dailies a Mark IV Jetta and has a Audi TT Roadster as a toy. And my brother is a bit of a water-cooled Volkswagen fanatic, owning everything from a Mark II EcoDiesel to a Scirocco. So let it be known that I love the wonderfully understated styling of that period's Audis. Quite possibly the best example of these Audis is the first generation TT. Known internally as the Type 8N, the Audi TT filled the void of the small enthusiast car left by the coupe and the cabriolet. Unlike those cars, which were essentially sporty versions of Audi's midsize offerings at the time, the TT would be a full-on design study. The exterior design would be credited to J. Mays and Freeman Thomas, while other designers such as Hartmann Warkus, Romulus Ross, Martin Smith, and Peter Schreier all worked on the interior design. The result was a small Beetle-esque shape that was also low-slung and aggressive. This is something that I kind of miss about late 90s car design. The understated styling that doesn't scream, "Look at me!" at all times. The name also fits well, as it pays homage to Audi's predecessors, NSU and DKW, success in the Isle of Man TT, possibly the greatest motorcycle race in the world. Inside, things continue to be wonderfully stylish. These little billet aluminum trim pieces are your accent pieces, and they're integrated wonderfully. The best is the fold-down stereo cover, which I think is the centerpiece of the whole interior design. Just this big TT plaque that boldly sits in the center, and when you tap on it, it raises to expose the radio and its controls. The aluminum trim continues with these rings that surround all the vents and circle the Audi badge in the center of the wheel. The door handles are aluminum, and the center stack is also held up with the aluminum legs. It's all tastefully done and works well with the black and gray interior. The best option for the first generation TT was the baseball leather interior, but that was an expensive option that's only gone up in value over time due to the rarity and the cool factor. On top of everything, and in the center of the dash, is a row of round buttons, centered by the hazard light button, a bright red highlight that dares to be pressed. There is a second row of seats, as this is a 2+2, but yeah. Normally I would subjugate myself to such torture for the lulz, but honestly there was no way in hell I was going to even fit in there. The owner knows this too, and he keeps them folded down flat for increased storage. When folded, they integrate seamlessly with the cargo area, so you wouldn't really notice them unless you knew they were there. Also behind the seats is the Bose 6-disc CD changer, and a pocket for the first aid kit. Both of these are integrated with these nice little matching pockets that are supposed to be seamless with the interior plastics and curves. Unfortunately, the plastic latches have long since broken. That's the biggest problem with the TT's interior. You'll get great materials like the aluminum or some solid rubber or plastic bits, and then you'll touch the vents to adjust them and be afraid to break them straight off. The owner also pointed out that another common problem is the tops of the doors, where the panels end. Over time, the glue comes up, and the windows will grab and pull it up, leading to this tearing. He says that the glue will also smear on the window, which leads to an extensive cleaning afterwards. The other major gripe is the cup holders. See this bit that looks like an aftermarket part that's tacked on where the armrest would be? That is factory. You either got that, or nothing at all, as an armrest would replace it. So on top of it being way back there, making reaching for your drink an awkward angle, shifting becomes part of a problem when you have a drink there. The owner says that he's knocked over plenty of drinks with his elbow, and he's since long given up on trying to keep drinks there. This is something that's kind of a common issue with Volkswagen Group cars of the time. My Mark III Jetta had these tiny little cup holders under the center stack, meaning that the only thing you could fit there was 12-ounce cans. Often I would resort to keeping drinks in my center console or between my legs. It's almost like the designers were making social commentary on the obesity problem in the United States, in my opinion. I always have this scene inside my head of a German engineer making fun of Americans while designing cup holders. I would act out this scene, but honestly, I don't want to embarrass myself anymore on this video. Anyways, there's a lot of clever and not so clever design here. It sits on Volkswagen's then new A4 platform, which it shares with the new Beetle, the Mark IV Jetta, the Audi A3, the Seat Leon in Toledo, and the Skoda Octavia of the time. Up front, you either got a transversely mounted 1.8-liter turbo 4 in 1 to 2 flavors, like in this car, or, starting in 2003, the 3.2-liter VR6 that produced a touch over 250 horsepower and 236 foot-pounds of torque. Initially, you could only get the TT in a manual, an ode to the enthusiasts who would buy such a car. Either you got the 5-speed with the lower output turbo 4, or a 6-speed with the higher output model. 2003 also saw the introduction of Volkswagen's now famous 6-speed DSG. Lower output models were also standard with front-wheel drive, but starting with the higher output motor, Audi's famous Quattro 4-wheel drive was standard. This is the Haldex system, and was one of the first cars to use the Haldex 4-wheel drive. Of course, being Audi, they branded it as Quattro in these cars. Now on the road, it's extremely easy to drive. The 4-cylinder is a surprisingly low revving 4-banger, and is really deep and muscular sounding compared to a Honda. Shifting is buttery smooth, and the clutch, despite being on the light side, is wonderfully forgiving. Also helping on the clutch side is the giant aluminum-faced dead pedal, which sits level with the clutch. This allows for minimum foot travel for engagement. This makes the TT, coupled with its small size, relatively easy to drive around town. Letting the Type 8N TT breathe on country roads is also a blast. The 1.8 snarls and makes turbo noises, and the steering and handling has that classic tight Volkswagen feel. It's tight and responsive. Wow, that was repetitive. And while the suspension may be a tad harsh on larger bumps, it feels great in the curves. These cars just feel solid on the road, unlike a period GM car, which feels like it may try to kill you at any moment. Brent. Now, the owner has had some reliability issues, mainly dealing with the transmission, which was freshly rebuilt before filming. During the rebuild, he upgraded to a Stage 1 clutch and replaced the drive shafts. But, other than the transmission, it's been a reliable fun car for him. He's installed an ATS exhaust, drilled and slotted brakes, replacement coils, and upgraded the plumbing for the turbo. He plans on upgrading the turbo eventually to a Stage 2 turbo, and eventually get an RS front bumper, on top of a complete wrap. He loves this car, and is one of 3 TTs he owns, the other being a 2nd gen and a newly purchased 2020 RS, which you may see on a future episode. But the owner's love for Audi TTs began with the 1st gen. Previously, he was into Hondas, but after buying a 1st gen TT, he soon fell down the rabbit hole of Audi TT ownership. He's had 4 total, and other than the new RS that he's recently purchased, all have been tuned to his liking. Audi TTs are great cars to build and tune, and this Mark I is the perfect example. It may not be a flawless example, as the now 20-year-old interior is having plenty of plastic issues, especially between the door tops and the rear hatch. But that's the fun of having a tuner project car. That just means that he's not afraid to upgrade it now. The Audi TT has turned into one of Audi's flagship models, with it being an entry-level sports car perfect for tuning. Older models such as this are not too terrible on the used market, and have plenty of aftermarket options. Between that, its fantastic driving dynamics, and looks that have aged like a fine wine, I can see why he is deep inside that Audi TT rabbit hole. 2001 Audi TT Quattro, Audi's take on the entry-level sports car. Thank you once again for watching another episode of Wookie Drives. This week's episode comes courtesy of Chris of Mooresville, North Carolina. Chris is the president of the Latitude Dreams Group in Mooresville, and he helped set up the 1966 Ford Mustang review from earlier in the year. A huge shout out to him and that group for helping out the show. If you have a car or truck in the Charlotte, Mooresville, Statesville area that you'd like to have on the show, be sure to message the official Facebook page at facebook.com/WookieDrives. Also, go ahead and follow my Twitter and Instagram at WookieAutomoTV for more Wookie shenanigans. Anyways, be sure to like the video, leave a comment with some feedback, share with all your friends, and hit that subscribe button for more Wookie Drives like these, or Trooper Vlogs. Finally, thank you so much for watching, and have a good night.
I will lose myself in the sound of the engine and watch the white lines on the road shoot by me like a million comets.